Did the New Orleans Saints improve their offensive line this offseason? Look, in order to build around Tyler Shuck, the answer to that question needs to be a definitive yes. Right now, I think we have a definitive maybe. Today, we're going to break down the offensive line, look at a depth chart. Told you it was getting its own video. Here it is. But important things that we're going to start with is the numbers. And the important numbers are actually 16, 9, and 7. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Now, the 16, 9, and 7, real simple. Currently on the roster right now, the Saints have 16 offensive linemen. Nine, nine is the probably more typical number you would carry on a 53-man roster. I think the Saints in the past have carried 10, but you're still probably only looking at 9 at the most active on game day. So we're going to kind of stick with the 9 number overall. And the most important one that you have to start off with is how many linemen right now of those 16 are locks for those 9 spots. And the number I come up with is 7, and they're right here. So the 7 I come up with, your starters, Banks, Edwards, McCoy, Ruiz, and Fuaga. I don't think that's any dispute right now. Everybody stays healthy. We will be better. Edwards kind of does that, and Banks and Fuaga are going to have to continue to keep getting better. McCoy has to stay healthy. Ruiz has to learn how to run block. I don't care how many times somebody in the comments says I'm going to stick up for Ruiz. He can't run block, and he needs to learn how to do it and do it quick. Richards and Redun's biggest thing with them is they can play both sides. When you're talking about Redun's, he can play both guard and tackle on both sides. So you have some multi-players here as backups that can do a lot of stuff, and that helps you get closer to that 9 number, knowing my 2 primary backups can back up Banks, Edwards, Ruiz, and Fuaga between the 2 of them in some way, shape, or form. So as long as that number doesn't go to 3 where we need backups, it's in pretty good shape. Redun's, I thought, played very well, especially when he came in for pinning at left guard and kind of got settled in that spot. Richards held his own for the most part. And I think one thing we need to point out to some of these players we're going to talk about, Richards is the first one that we get to. He did not have an offseason with the Saints. Traded with Dallas on August 26th of 2025. That's when the trade went through. He showed up a day or so later and just kind of had to hit the ground running. He's got a full offseason. We should expect his play to get much better as he's backing up Banks and Fuaga primarily. Now, what's not necessarily being backed up here is center. There is no, right now, primary, except for one possibility we'll talk about in a second, backup center for McCoy. And said it before, say it again, and I'll keep saying it. I do not want this to be a repeat of 2024 where we had no true backup center when we lost McCoy. It was a shit show. 24, we avoided that. It was supposed to be Clapp, wound up being Fortner. Of these 7, Ruiz is the only one that's ever played center, and he did it in college. Torricelli Simpkins, he played both left guard and right guard in 2025 for us, so he can skip around to either side, has some experience at both spots. He was in college. He played right guard his last year in college for South Carolina. It was a starter there for all their games. Previous to that, he had played for North Carolina Central, and he was a center. So he had about 3 years of work at center, 1 at right guard, and he was the primary backup when Clapp went down during preseason last year and got an awful lot of snaps behind McCoy. But then right after we played Jacksonville in that preseason game, we gave them Saunders. They gave us Fortner. Simpkins moved back to playing primarily guard after that. William Sherman and another one like Richards showed up late. In fact, it was week 3 when we signed him to the practice squad, I believe off of Denver's practice squad. In 2025 for us, he played some right guard, and he also played some bit of tackle when in a pinch when people were going down during the course of a game. But by nature, he's actually a tackle. He played right tackle at Colorado his whole college career, started the last couple of seasons there. So moving him to guard shows some flexibility, say like a Redun's. I can back up both left guard and right guard and both left tackle and right. I think these are the 2 right now that comfortably slide into the final 9 to 10 man type roster number we're looking. Then we get to the very curious case of Nick Saldiveri. And this is where things start getting interesting over the last 7 names on this list. He's sort of the Kendre Miller of our offensive line. And like Miller, they were both rookies the same year. Like Miller, 3 years in a row, he's flashed some brilliance, or at least some ability, I should say. I don't necessarily know if it's brilliance. He's ended every year on season ending IR. In fact, he didn't even get to play in 2025 because that IR came very early in the process. In 23, his rookie year, he played in 4 games before the IR hit, and that was at right guard and also as a tackle in some of the jumbo packages. Prior to that in college at Old Dominion, he was mainly a right tackle, but did play some right guard. The interesting thing was in 2024, remember, and I'd kind of forgotten about this, in minicamp, as the season started, Clint Kubiak and the new offensive staff, John Benton, were all here. They pretty much loved Saldivari. He was named the starting left guard going into training camp, and of course, he got injured. Missed the beginning of the season, played in 11 games, got 6 starts in there, but then injured again, and his season ended. Couple of different staffs before this one, he showed, hey, I can do the job that you want me to do. Playing in 15 games and 6 starts in 3 years in the NFL will show enough in enough time to impress who he needs to impress right now, where he's going to end up making this roster. So you get to the next 6 names, which are the 3 returnees that were on the roster from last year, and then the 3 rookies who are showing up today because I'm filming this on the first day of minicamp. One thing all 6 have in common: none of them have taken a snap during an NFL regular season game on the offensive line. Only one has actually taken any snaps in an NFL regular season game. That was Xavier Truss last season for us, and that was on special teams only. So the starting point for all of them basically the same. They all have other very similar characteristics. For lack of a better word, they can do a lot of different things in the sense that they can play multiple positions or either side of the line of scrimmage at their positions. So there's a versatility here. And going forward in this conversation, versatility is going to be a very, very, very big deal. Let's start with, real quick, with Barry Wesley. Guard and tackle in his career. Both, he has some technically professional experience, played in the UFL and the XFL for a couple of seasons. Played guard and tackle in both. When he was in college at Colorado State, he played guard and tackle. Xavier Truss, like we said, special teams only last year in the few games that he was active for the Saints. Now, mentioned, like Richards, claimed off of waivers prior to week 1. So he showed up right before we kicked off the first game of the season. His career in Georgia spanned 2019 to 2024, where he played both guard and tackle on that offensive line. Primarily a guard once he became a full-time starter, but they moved him around. So a lot of years in and a lot of experience in that ability on the college level. Guilty, undrafted free agent. We signed April 25th. So starting left tackle. His final season in college at Kansas State. 3 years prior to that, he was at the University of North Dakota, where 23 starting left tackle the whole season, 2022 starting right guard the whole season, and 2021 started every game for him between left tackle and right guard. So, 4-year starter in college, 2 positions. Again, the versatility and age and experience with all these guys. Now, moving over to the rookie side, here's where it gets very, very interesting. Jeremiah Wright, our 4th-round pick at Auburn. It's a lot of comments going, hey, why wasn't he on the depth chart when we did the previous video? Normally, I would have put him on there, except now maybe this was talked about when we drafted him or right after the draft. If it was mentioned, I completely missed it. I didn't pick up on it until I started kind of doing a deeper dive into some of his film and what he did at Auburn. But when he showed up at Auburn in 2020 and also in 2021 while he was there, he was a defensive tackle, did not play offensive line. 22, he made the jump over, was a backup offensive lineman. 23, he was primarily a backup at left guard. Then in 24 and 25, and this was the stat I kept hearing right after we drafted him, Auburn played 24 games in those 2 years. He started all 24 at right guard. So, not as much experience on the offensive line as you would like, considering the length of time he was in college, but considerable amount of starts over 2 years at right guard. So, bearing that in mind, it was a little hard for me to go ahead and throw him in the depth chart, but it could still happen. I would probably, out of this group, he probably has the best chance. If they choose to keep, say, 9 for active, but want to have a 10 offensive lineman on the 53, he's probably odds on for being that 10th guy. Walschlager, probably not much of a chance, but Herron might also, because Herron started at left tackle for Maryland in 2024 and 2025. Prior to that, he was at a Division II school, Charter University, where in 23 and 22, he started all 24 of their games, either as the starting left tackle or the starting right tackle. Thing is, when he transferred from the Division II school to Maryland, he chose Maryland over Penn State, Clemson, Miami, Auburn, and Syracuse. 5 top Division I schools for the most part, very interested in him. Saints signed him to a $250,000 undrafted free agent contract, which is almost unheard of, which you just kind of draw the conclusion at least one other team, but probably a lot of other teams were also interested in signing him, and the Saints had to go above and beyond. So he's one to definitely keep an eye on. Walschlager is interesting in the fact that he's the only one that probably doesn't show any amount of versatility at all, because he was a right tackle in college. He was a right tackle from 2020 to 24 at Bowling Green in Kentucky. His final year, he was a right tackle. Thing is, over that span of time, 56 games played, 51 starts, and they were all at right tackle. So, brought in, I think of the 3, he's got the least possibility of sneaking one of those final roster spots in the depth chart. Obviously, I think Wright has the best. Aaron somewhere in the middle, but somebody to keep your eye on. And it's going to be incumbent on whoever your favorites are out of these 6 names. I think the way it stands right now, take a Saldivari out for right now, because I think it's slim to none chance for him. So narrowing it down to 15 possible names, those 6 have to overtake one of the 4 potential backups. Because I think Banks, Edwards, McCoy, Ruiz, Richards, Radens, Sherman, and Simpkins right now are your probable 9 they're keeping, and that's what your depth chart's going to look like. The Saints are going to have to develop some guys very quickly to overtake any of those 9, and primarily, you're really talking about the backups. Ruiz may be in danger, but we'll see, because I don't think you have anybody on the roster that can realistically take his place, except for maybe Radens. Outside of that, I don't think you're making a lot of moves as far as who's going to jump who in the roster on the depth chart, as long as those top 5 stay healthy. I think the biggest thing to look at when we get closer to training camp, I don't think anything's going to happen during OTAs / mini camp in the next month and a half, is if Simpkins can't prove he can back up McCoy and be the main guy, looking similar to last year, some kind of way, them trying to bring in a veteran backup center. I just don't think they want to do it now, because I do think they want to give Simpkins a chance. Outside of him, again, Ruiz is the only person with any type of center experience you have on this roster. And why this is such a big deal to me is you have a young quarterback. I would like to have a veteran center that knows the position and make the calls, because that's one less thing you're taking off Tyler Shuck's plate to worry about what the offensive line is doing on their calls, so he can concentrate on the stuff he needs to concentrate on. And that's my concern, is watching him. Simpkins, he has experienced 3 years in college, so it's not positioned in totally alien to him. Can he take it to the next level and be the guy? Okay, you can back up McCoy, because if he can't, I would think of those 9, He's his roster spot may be in the most jeopardy because that takes away his versatility. Because there's a whole bunch of guys behind him that can play guard and tackle. In like him, have a lot of experience doing both. So if you bring in that backup center, who's only going to be a backup center, versatility between guard and tackle may come into play to whether or not Simpkins can hold his job. And really the same thing with Sherman, because I think they are the two most vulnerable to that group of Saldivari will include him, but I think it's really the other six. It's the three that were here last year and the three rookies that we brought in. Alan Moore said oftentimes it's the NFL, it's the offensive line. You're going to have to shuffle it around at some point. So I think what they're doing, looking at that roster and then trying to come up with a depth chart, I think the versatility, especially at those backup positions, and it's pretty much the key to the whole thing. I think it's just essential that everybody after the first five starters, they're going to have to show it. However many it goes, whether it's four or five, I can't imagine that they would try to skate this out going only eight. So you'd only have three backups, but it's not without the realm of possibility. So focusing on that nine number, fairly certain about the top five. It's the next four or five where all the question marks are right now. So let me know down in the comments. Tell me, is it going to be nine or it's 10? And whatever which number you give me, let me know, what it looks like for you, because I think it's nine. And I think when you're looking at those question marks, McCoy, Ruiz, and Fuaga, pretty much going to be handled with a combination of Simpkins and Sherman along with Redunds and Richards as of May 2026. I'd like to see a more solid and discernible depth chart, obviously, by the time we kick things off in September. So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out.